I'm here to talk about InnoEnergy, and don't be fooled by the photo that you see. We are not a wind energy company. We are here to address all of the main pain points of energy transition and make the European energy industry more competitive through innovation. So I'm not going to maybe repeat my colleagues talking about the knowledge triangle. The graphic is enough. The only thing I would like to add that I believe the lifeblood of the knowledge triangle is indeed investment. So to talk about our organization, we were established in 2010 in the first wave of KICs, and we aim for financial sustainability. As Martin mentioned, we have quite a heavy industry involvement, but right now the majority funds still come from EIT. We're hoping to change that in the immediate future. And there is also another triangle that I would like to mention. People, business, and technology. Much like the knowledge triangle, if you take any of those elements away, the triangle breaks down. So this is the most important aspects of innovation that we invest in, being pretty much the biggest clean tech and clean energy accelerator in the world right now, which we are really proud of. So to move forward and maybe give you a better overview of what exactly are we focusing on. So our general objectives include things like driving down emissions. This is where we seek synergies and try to cooperate closely with Mike and the Climate Kick. This is also driving the price of the energy down for the end consumer and making it more reliable, securing the supply for the entire community, as well as making the working environment safer, because as I'm sure you know, working in the energy industry is related to a lot of risk and health and safety issues. And finally, to create jobs. But to break that down into sectoral focus, because when we tell people we invest and sort of work on sustainable energy, people often say, oh, okay, so it's renewables. Well, renewables are a part of the puzzle, but as a matter of fact, I believe that the energy transition is a systemic issue and the approach needs to be systemic. So we invest in clean coal and gas technologies. I believe that sounds a bit like an oxymoron. However, that is anything that has to do with driving down emissions of fossil fuels that are currently being used and that might go away someday in the future, but are not going away anytime soon. Energy storage, which is right now a very hot topic, because a lot of things such as integrating the renewables into the smart grids relies on proper energy storage technologies. General energy efficiency, and I don't think there's much to explain here. Energy from chemical fuels, so making an efficient use of biomass, looking at hydrogen fuels, and a lot of different approach of how fuels can be manufactured. Renewable energy, I think this is more or less clear, and smart and efficient buildings and cities, which also involves elements of electric vehicles, sort of making the cities more energy friendly and consuming less energy. Electric and smart grids, so balancing the grid and getting renewables involved without any major disruptions or blackouts. And finally, nuclear instrumentation, so de-riskifying the very the nuclear energy that has a lot of bad press due to some of the events of the past. But to talk more about the network, as my colleagues emphasized, I think if someone comes to us just for the funds, perhaps we're not the best direction, we're not the best choice, because I believe the biggest value that we bring to the table is the network. We have 26 shareholders. Some of them are the leading research institutions, the leading academic institutions, and finally industry players, some of them really the top players in Europe, such as Total, EDF, ABB, Schneider Electric, Gas Natural, Fenosa, and almost 300 partners that we sort of brought to the table through projects and other forms of engagement, which basically creates a large family in the energy industry. And I often believe this is the biggest value that we can deliver. As you might know, when it comes to energy industry, there isn't that many players as in other industries, even though the paradigm is shifting with the rise of prosumers and shifting the power away to the little guy. Right now, still, energy is a game of big organizations. So if your startup or if your innovation project is targeting customers, especially in B2B, there isn't that many Bs you can approach. So the value we deliver is that we can open the right door for you. We have friends in all of the places in Europe, and we brought value to them in the past. So whenever you need us to do the knock-knock and open the door for you, perhaps that might be the only way a startup or an innovation project would be able to sit at the table with the big industry player. So this map also provides an overview of 6 co-location centers marked with black dots. And each one of those co-location centers is much more than just a physical infrastructure where people work. Based on their geographical and sort of location conditioning from the, as well as historical past, each co-location has a function of a knowledge hub. Basically, it helps us with the evaluation of projects from a specific technology domain. For example, Sweden is the knowledge hub for smart grid technologies. Iberia, which covers Spain and Portugal, focuses on renewables, and Poland, the land of coal, does clean coal and gas technologies. So I'm going to move on to identify the way in which we operate, because I think it might be of interest to you. The order is not intentional, but I will start with the innovation projects. You might say that it's my favorite. Innovation projects, you can interpret it in a lot of ways, but to me, essentially, it's a pipeline to bring a solution from fundamental research institutions or very innovative but quite relatively small SMEs to the big industry. So in that way, we do not focus on one single company, but we focus on a consortium of companies towards which we have requirements. Consortium has to have 3 to 7 partners, at least transgress at least one border. So it cannot be 5 partners from the same country, because in the end, we're not aiming at delivering benefits to one country from the EIT region, but to all of the countries. So we encourage international cooperation. And within this consortium, each partner needs to have a specific function, and we focus on several of those functions. So first of all, there needs to be an SME or a research institution that delivers the innovative idea, pretty much a small guy we're trying to help out. The second part is the piloting customer. That would ideally be a big name from the energy industry, take Total, for example, that would basically take the technology on board, pilot it, and demonstrate the benefits, giving credibility to the solution. Because otherwise, it might not have that much traction if there isn't a big name that says, you know, I put my stamp of confidence on it. Then, I think maybe the paramount element of innovation projects is the commercializing partner. Is the actual partner that has the agreements with us, and the partner that is responsible for disseminating the solution through their sales channels and distribution methods throughout the whole of Europe. So in that way, we expect the product to be in the market for about 5 years. In exchange, we take a revenue share agreement based on this specific product. I think it's important to mention that the entire IP remains in the ownership of the consortium, so we do not put our fingers on it. And we've already had some success cases. Here are also some numbers to bring your attention to. Maybe out of respect for my colleagues' time, I will just cover 2 of those examples. 2 out of 3 is still, I think, a pretty good score. So Neptune, or right now Aeolos as it's called, is basically a floating self-balancing island that has a LiDAR technology, and it's used to measure wind velocity onshore and offshore before building a wind farm. Right now, it's pretty much done with a flagpole that has to stand there for a year and just measure the velocity. It often breaks. Sometimes the harsh weather conditions damage it. With this island, it's self-sustainable in terms of energy. It positions itself in the right spot and doesn't float away, and uses LiDAR technology to give you very exact measurements of the wind velocity before you even start building your wind farm, essentially de-riskifying the early stage of the company's investment. The other example, quite close to my heart since it came from the Eastern European region where I'm originally from, is the Estonian company called Skeleton, which invented graphene ultracapacitors. Ultracapacitors, I'm not an engineer, so if I'm making some maybe inaccuracies, please let me know. Ultracapacitors are a good companion for energy storage systems that, for example, if the renewables are involved, for some reason the forecast wasn't accurate and the energy peaks, then you need to have some kind of a mega battery that would be able to shave those peak demand and prevent any damage to the storage infrastructure. And these guys from Estonia right now started their own manufacturing facility in Germany. So we are very happy to see this moving trans borders. But I think the most important and impressive aspect is the graphene aspect. The first question that we get asked when we talk about graphene inventions is, where do you get the graphene from? It's very hard to obtain this material. The production methods are very sort of time consuming. These guys created their own method of graphene production that they patented, that they keep secret, and that is the basis of their competitive advantage. So financial-wise, it was one of our best investments, and till this day, we have investors approaching us saying, well, I wish we came into Skeleton where we had the chance, because right now it's pretty much too late because they don't need any money. So this is more or less about innovation projects. Of course, I'm more than happy to address any questions after, so feel free to approach me. So let's move on to the second business line, targeted at smaller companies, startups, or even just a person that is an entrepreneur. We call this business creation services, which goes together with our acceleration program, the Highway. So in that case, we might find an entrepreneur that wants to start an innovative business, or maybe a small startup that is just in the beginning of their way. So what we do, we approach them and offer them a tailor-made acceleration program that balances between the elements such as product, so pretty much technology enhancement, prototyping it, working out the little details and making sure it's really sort of ready for the market. It's about understanding the market, finding your market niche, finding the right business model for you, as well as understanding who would be your main customer segments, what is your unique value proposition, and what is your competitive advantage. It's team enhancement, so looking at people. And essentially, we are able to tailor-make this highway program for the needs of the entrepreneur, balancing in between those elements as the entrepreneur see fit. In that way, there is some also money involved that come from us to help them grow. But part of this money is within value-added services. And the way we do it, we do not say you need this, that, and this. No, we make it a conversation. It's pretty much like a parent taking a kid to a barber shop. So the kid picks the haircut he likes, but we cover the costs. So that pretty much sums it up. And when it comes to the finance, we also have quite a strong muscle in here, because on top of the relatively small financial push that we provide to the business, at the end of the highway program, when we know that the innovation is ripe and ready, when we know that we work out all the problems that might have arisen in the past, we bring it forward to what we call a venture capital community, which is essentially a community of venture capital arms of big energy companies that we cooperate with, to which we send best quality projects on a regular basis, encouraging them to invest in those projects or bring them into their operations. We also have a network of business angels that is constantly growing. This is not as sort of formal as the venture capital community, but our engagement, both in case of innovation projects and business creation services, does not end with the end of the project or does not end with the end of acceleration program. We essentially help those companies further develop the business, further attract investments, which is not sort of charity work, because that can either increase the value of our shares or increase the money we get from the revenue share agreements as outcome of the innovation projects. So to look at some interesting cases from business creation services, one is from Spain, it's called Technoturbines. And for a company that has very intensive water operation, perhaps an irrigation company, I'm pretty sure there's quite a few around here in Israel, you need to reduce pressure in order to maintain the proper flow of your water. And that pressure right now, in many cases, goes to waste. So what Technoturbines did, they created a small retrofit device that you put on your pressure valves, and it allows you to produce energy with the excess pressure that you're releasing that you would otherwise go to waste. You can then use this electricity for your own operations, or you can sell this electricity back to the market. The second one also, sorry for a little bias, but it's also from Central and Eastern Europe. It's a Lithuanian case called Smart Charge Box. So as I'm sure you know, right now with the uptake of electric vehicle, sort of cities and stations that introduced electric vehicle charging infrastructure cannot really make money on it right now as per regulation. So everyone is looking for the perfect business model that will be the business model of the future for EV infrastructure. So Smart Charge Box is much more than just a pole for charging. It's the hardware component, it's the software component behind it with data analytics built in, and it can be matched to pretty much any type of business model you can think of. And finally, it's a customer-facing app that allows you to engage with the customer, allows you to gather more insight about your customer. So the way we think about it, it's essentially a platform that you can use to try out any business model you might like, and that is ready for the business model of the future for electric vehicles. And finally, we get into education, which is very important to us because we believe even the best technologies, need to be operated by the best people that have the understanding of the challenges that are in front of the energy sector. So we offer education programs to young engineers that have a basic engineering degree. That's the only requirement. And we offer them programs tailored towards specific pain points of the energy transition as related to the thematic fields that we took a look at the beginning. On top of which, we also provide MOOCs that I believe my colleagues already described. And we also have very heavy engagement with the industry, trying to build the innovation capacity within companies, making energy companies that traditionally quite conservative and sometimes not innovation prone. We try to make them more innovative by bringing in external expertise and external perspective, and we try to help them work out the future strategic positioning within the future energy landscape. On top of which, we can create tailored education programs for corporates. So basically, let's say you're an energy company and you're looking for a very specific type of a qualified personnel. We can essentially create them for you by educating young, robust, innovation-minded people into this very employee that you are dreaming of. So finally, perhaps to give you a small anecdote that shows you how robust our education programs are, we had Iberdrola, the Spanish energy company, approaching us, UCLA, and MIT with 3 key topics that are important to them within the energy transition. And all 3 sort of institutions, so InnoEnergy, UCLA, and MIT, send out the proposals for the first round of applications. And then after the second round, the Iberdrola board sent out a message, UCLA, MIT, it was very interesting. Thank you very much for all your input. But we think for the next round, we're just going to stick with InnoEnergy. So that shows you that our robust network of education partners provides us with such a huge knowledge base that even though InnoEnergy is not an academic institution, we are able to compete with the best in the field and produce very competitive employees that also gain more financial compensation from the companies and the future employers. So I hope that pretty much sums up how we approach innovation and how we plan to tackle the challenges of the future energy landscape. And as mentioned, I will be here all day. Please approach me with any questions or discussion points. We would be very happy to get more heavily involved in cooperation with Israeli ecosystem. I'm sure there is a lot of fields to consider. And thank you again for having me. And I look forward to the roundtable discussion so we can sort of push the innovation topics together. Thank you.